For this video, I'm gonna talk about why I hate Nugu K-pop companies. There are thoughts in here that I've already talked about before, but I wanted to make this video as a full story type thing, sharing all my thoughts into one video so they're all together. I did add some new thoughts however. Also, this video has one serious topic thing that I hate these companies for, and the rest fall under non-serious topics. So enjoy and please sub. Let's go. Nugu K-pop companies should stop debuting groups or making groups to debut them for the sole reason that they're a smaller label with a small budget. If they're ones who are a small label, they should stop thinking of forming a group to debut them if they don't have the budget enough to keep them long, and will probably disband them after debut or their first comeback, unless the group disbands for a totally unrelated reason that is not budget issues. If a company knows they probably can't provide the group with a long career, then maybe they shouldn't be debuting them in the first place. So many idols' dreams get shattered because they disband too soon by these companies, and yes, I know about possibly scam or fake companies or whatnot in K-pop, but I'm talking about the companies who seem like they could be legit ones, and these companies shouldn't even try at all if they don't do anything for the group because they can't. It's better to save that money used into debuting a group that will disband early and debut a group at a time where you have enough money to keep them longer. I would rather stan a Nugu group that takes longer to release music due to their smaller budget, but posts pictures, videos on social media, doing live shows at university or festival events, or doing anything that shows that they're still active as a group, than support a group only to find out they've disbanded or silently disbanded. It's the same issue that I have with pre-debut smaller company groups. Why do they promote only for the company to not debut them due to their small budget? These companies have no business in being a company if they cannot run as a company. These groups debuting overfill the industry because they're just another group that once was or never came to be. Plus, these disbandments lead idols to go from one company to another, debuting again and again in these groups that debut, never becoming the slightest bit successful due to bad music or other reasons, and the group never having a long-lasting career, which is why we have idols like Jinsol, Blackpink's backup dancer, her last group is Blastar, and Suyeon, currently in Minimini, who have debuted about 5 times. Here are some examples of groups disbanding after debut or after their first comeback. Let me just clear this up first before I talk about this. I'm not being rude here and hating you guys for this part that I'm talking about. I'm just sharing honest thoughts that may come off as rude and mean, but I'm not trying to be. You guys, not all of you guys, but a lot of you guys, don't know this because most of y'all stan and know the bigger companies with the better and big budgets, and if y'all do know Nugus, it's mostly bigger or decent budget company ones that can keep their groups longer, but there are so many groups amongst smaller budget labels debuting and disbanding with idols in these groups not getting as long a career as groups like Twice or 80s. We have so many groups who just come, release 1 or 2 songs and then disband, and I know quite a few of them disband due to their small budget, because why else would these companies disband them so early? You guys as K-pop stans see idols debuting in groups that last for so long, and the only ever time they debut into another group is possibly a project group or a group made from a survival show or some new collab type group the company forms with idols from its own company. Most of the idols that y'all know are idols who debut in groups, have a long career, and then debut solo after the group disbands or during group activities or something, or maybe these idols from these previous groups debut again in other groups like IZ*ONE members or CLC's Yujin. But amongst Nugu groups and extremely small labels, we have groups who disband too soon and idols who debut again and again before they go solo, having unsuccessful careers in these groups because these companies don't have the funds to do much for them even if they try. If you're a Nugu group fan, you'll see quite a few familiar faces amongst new groups debuting. Unlike bigger budgeted K-pop groups or bigger company K-pop groups that debut, not every Nugu group has the privilege to have a long-lasting career, meaning doesn't disband too quickly. We need to shed light on this issue of over-debuting. We see K-pop stans already talk about how so many groups keep debuting, but they'll get even more shocked seeing the Nugu side of K-pop and how many more debut in K-pop than just the side of K-pop that they know and follow. I've talked about this before, but it's a big issue with too many groups debuting and we need it to stop because as I said above we have groups that debut only to disband too soon and that's why we need to stop it, because again they overfill the industry. These groups have no purpose in the industry if they debut and then disband soon after or maybe after their first comeback. They're nothing groups unless they debut in the industry and show something. Like talent from live performances or covers or good catchy music from if they have more than one song at debut like an EP or single album or something, or if they have 1 to 2 pre-debut songs and then a debut and people like their sound, that leads fans to wanna stan them and want them to continue longer and think they deserve more popularity, but if they're a group that has nothing of that sort, then should they even debut? Companies should not debut idols and groups if the group don't have anything interesting about them like lack of talent. Or if the company cannot produce good music etc. And yes, I know bigger budgeted labels can also debut in interesting groups, but I mention Nugu companies in this aspect, because while bigger budget labels do debut groups, a lot of the debuts that happen in K-pop in a year come from Nugu, smaller labels who debut groups that very rarely stay for longer than a lot of Nugu groups do. For me there are lots of Nugu groups that just exist and I have forgotten about them, because the only music they've had is one song and or maybe a B-side with it, and that song is nothing special or interesting or is badly made but I don't like the song. I've come to not care about music production if the song hits, plus I also love an interesting music, but in certain cases there are groups for me that just exist because of the low quality and or boring music. Plus, there are lots of K-pop stans who are not like me, who care about the quality of a song and don't like boring music and this leads K-pop stans to not wanna stan the group with some K-pop stans even hating on the group for the music. I've talked about this before and recently, but I wanted to bring it up again because yes, we do see bad boring music amongst bigger budgeted labels too, but it's different amongst Nugu labels considering that Nugu labels don't have enough funds to get good music, and to that, these groups shouldn't even exist simply because these companies can't even give them good or decent music, only talking about the companies who've never improved on the group's music quality for later songs. There have been groups to come where the music objectively is bad or boring even if you do like the song despite these things. And I just hate how these idols debut in these groups because since the music quality is terrible or boring, these idols don't get to showcase any talents if they have any because of this, and if the group disbands too soon, the idols could not have showcased any talents if the group disbands too soon having bad quality music and having no live performances, and if they do have live performances, it might possibly be lip syncing. These idols don't get to show anything this way, and it sucks. Here are some examples of low quality and or boring music.
Hey, look at me, do you really wanna? Look at you, what you gonna do?
다이너마이트처럼 터져버릴 멍멍 같은 열정을 지금 보여줄게 My life showtime.
You guys already know about bad, horrible K-pop companies. And I mean in the sense of groups like Stellar and their sexploitation. W.O.W and them disbanding in 2020 with their company saying that the group's disbandment was because of one member's promiscuous lifestyle. With Ari, a former member, later on revealing that members were subject to neglect, exploitation, sexual harassment and sexual assault by the company staff, Angel Russ with the CEO of their company being accused of forcing the female trainees to send him inappropriate photos in exchange for their debut, and Modane with Gaon and hiatus due to sexual assault as a few examples of Nugu K-pop groups facing horrible things under these companies. It's scary because of how many groups debut in a year with new companies also coming up as well, and things like these possibly happening but we don't know what happens behind the scenes. These companies from Nugu Kpop are unknown when they debut groups, because some of these companies debut groups and that group is possibly the company's first to debut, so these companies are new and fresh with nothing much about them, and even with other smaller agencies who have debuted groups in the past, these entertainments being Nugu, there might not be much information on the entertainment apart from their formation date and who the CEO is and information about their groups. So unlike bigger companies where you can get lots of information on them because they're bigger and some being super popular, Nugu companies have lack of information about their companies fully, so horrible things happening behind the scenes and us not knowing because the company is so Nugu and unknown is very unsettling, because unless they're exposed by the idol of the company or something happens leading them to get exposed, we might not know anything about these horrible things that possibly happen. For this one, I don't hate smaller budget companies who can't promote their groups because they don't have the funds to do so like bigger companies, but I do hate when K-pop groups are active, but they don't post on social media. Like if K-pop groups are active but they've never posted on social media in a couple of days, so you're just wondering a bit if they're active because they haven't posted anywhere recently and it's been a week or so. And you wonder if they're disbanding or not, because lots of Nugu groups silently disband this way, by not posting on socials anymore and silently going offline, with no official statement from the company, and sometimes we find out about their disbandment through asking members, so I would like groups to post often instead of going offline only to come back to posting a week or maybe 2 weeks or so later showing that they're active. I want groups to post often to show us that they've not silently ended their careers without us knowing. I also want groups to post more on YouTube. Like, I love that these groups show activity on Instagram and possibly TikTok and Twitter as well. But I would love more content on YouTube as well, to have dance vocal covers, fun vlogs, challenges and things where we get to learn about the group's talent and personalities more, and I just hate that there are groups out there where they don't post more, and I wonder why the company doesn't make them post more content like that, because if the group has no funds to do proper promotions that bigger companies do, this type of content can act as free promotion for the group. I know that this is a weird thing to hate a K-pop company for, wanting video content on YouTube, but it's a valid thing to hate a company for it, because there are K-pop stans who watch these types of contents instead of just being there for the music. So if a K-pop stan wants to get into a K-pop group, how are they gonna get into one if the group is small budgeted, so they don't make music often, and the only content they have is short TikToks, posts on Instagram and Twitter that could be mostly just pictures and possibly lip-sync live performances on music shows and other live performances that they do, etc. With groups like these, people cannot become fans of the group if they have nothing to stan except for 1 to 2 released songs and posts on social media that doesn't show much about the group at all. People love getting immersed in a group, so they need content like this to stan. Plus, the only content they could have like this if they don't post on YouTube at all, fun long-formed content, is being invited on a show, Ararang Radio for example, to sing their song live and also possibly do an interview. Besides that, there is nothing. So yeah, you can see why I hate Nugu K-pop companies for this. In conclusion, I know that bigger budgeted companies can also do some of the things that I mentioned, but I talked about it for Nugu K-pop companies because they make up almost the whole industry from what I see. Bigger budgeted popular groups, bigger budgeted unpopular groups who have passed Nugudom but are not popular yet, and bigger budgeted Nugus make up some of the industry, but to me, what I see is that Nugus, especially extremely small Nugus, make up a bigger portion of the industry and they're the bigger part. So many groups debut each year, and most of the debuts are lesser known Nugus from smaller agencies, and the smaller part of the debuts are popular groups or bigger budget Nugus unpopular artists. So yeah, that's why I made this video on Nugu K-pop companies as my main target to talk about, and to end this video with I hate them. I cannot say any more that has not already been said in the different parts above, so yeah. Bye.